History and usage of dooryard. I have been interested in the expression dooryard stop recently. This is an expression that is used to describe a short visit in someone's dooryard, driveway, that often means not staying long enough to even get out of the car. It is the opposite of what could be called conversational dieseling. I have used it all my life, and only recently learned that it is native to Maine, my home state, and pretty much no one else has ever heard of it. I find this peculiar. My first thought was that dooryard was a holdover from our English roots, but the Free Dictionary indicates that it is us in Canadian usage. I suppose if you overlap the S in Canada, you get Maine. Indeed, Urban Dictionary describes its usage as limited to Aroostook County, the northernmost part of Maine along the Quebec border. Merriam-Webster puts its first recorded use around 1764 and draws the parallel with barnyard and backyard, and describes it as the yard in front of the door of the house. I believe that nowadays, Mainers would tell you it means the same thing as driveway, which makes sense given that the driveway usually runs beside the kitchen door of the houses here, which would be the entrance for informal guests. Can anyone tell me more about the history of this word, and does anyone know about the actual extent of its usage? I have a hard time believing such a simply formed word is restricted to such a small population.
Your dooryard stop sounds a bit like a whistle stop to me. I do not have at my fingertips the Dictionary of American Regional English, but that is the go-to place for studying such regional usage, particularly where the same thing goes by different terms all over. The entirety of the OED2's entry for the word is as follows. Dooryard. U.S. a yard or garden patch about the door of a house. C. 1764 in T.D. Woolsey Hist. Disc. 1850. 50 for the freshmen times are forbidden to wear their hats times in the front dooryard of the president's or professor's house. 1850 for Lowell Camber. Mass. 30 years ago pros WKS. 1890 I. 59 the flowers which decked his little dooryard. 1878 Emerson in N. Amer. Reverend CXVI. For 112 we sent to England for shrubs, which grow as well in our own dooryards and cow pastures. 1913 Frost boys will 9 how drifts are piled. Dooryard and road ungraded. 1941 T. S. Eliot Dry Salvages I. 7 the rank ailanthus of the April dooryard. Pity about the first citation and being forbidden to wear any hats resulting from this question if you are a fresh woman. Smiley face. Edit. I found a wee bit of the aforementioned dare online here, where it mentions these in the section on New England. Doorstone and chiefly neng dooryard and chiefly neng, and why dooryard call and neng.
OED1 defines it as U.S. a yard or garden patch about the door of a house, and offers the following citations. Circa 1764 in T.D. Woolsey in Hist. Disc. The freshmen are forbidden to wear their hats in the front dooryard of the president's or professor's house. 1850 for Lowell Camber, Mass. 30 years ago, the flowers which decked his little dooryard. 1878 Emerson in N. Amer. Reverend, we sent to England for shrubs, which grow as well in our own dooryards and cow pastures. 1913 Frost boys will 9 how drifts are piled, dooryards and roads ungraded. 1941 T. S. Eliot Dry Salvages, the rank ailanthus of the April dooryard. I note that all of these except the Eliot are from Yankee sources, and although Eliot was born and raised in St. Louis, his parents were New Englanders. However, probably the most famous use of the word is Walt Whitman's elegy on Lincoln, when lilacs last in the dooryard bloomed, and Whitman lived his whole life on Long Island and in Camden, New Jersey, except for a brief period during and immediately after the Civil War. Edit. A posting on rootweb.com, Some Old Houses in Reedfield, Maine, describes the evolution of Maine architecture and provides detail about the origin of dooryard call. Over time, men could find time to make additions and improvements to the log cabins. Sometimes the original cabin became an outbuilding, and a finer house was built. Sometimes the original cabin was enveloped, and a century later the unsuspecting I would never have guessed that a log cabin was nestled inside a lovely Victorian structure. In the mid-19th century it became common in Maine to build a summer kitchen, shed and barn onto the house, usually a Cape Cod-style house, creating a big house, little house, back house, barn effect. This architectural style caught on about the time of the mass exodus west, and at the beginning of the agricultural decline in Maine, thus our extended farm buildings are rarely seen in the rest of the USA. The disadvantage was, of course, threat of fire which would destroy the whole farm, and the smells and flies that went with an attached barn. Some of the advantages were easy accessibility to the barn, animals, food storage areas, milk room and sleigh in the winter, protection from the winter winds both outside and in, added warmth for the animals, and last but not least an indoor trek to the privy at the back of the barn or shed. If you mention a dooryard in another part of the country, chances are they will not know what you are referring to. With the extended farm buildings there were 3 yards: the front yard by the parlor where special guests were greeted, the barn yard where the men did their farm chores, and the dooryard by the shed or summer kitchen where women did laundry, planted and tended their kitchen garden and did other women's work. Sometimes we still hear the term dooryard call, and now you know the origin. You wouldn't want to disturb someone for any length of time while they were working, so you just stop for a moment on your way by for a quick hello in the yard. You made a dooryard call.
The Chronicling America newspaper archives covers 1836 to 1922. The earliest 500 results for dooryard, removing duplicates, are found between 1836 and 1875 and are from these states: 151, VT, 88, PAR, 66, TN, 40, KS, 30, NY, 24, MO, 21, MN, 10, or 14, LA, 8, VA, 8, DC, 7, NE, 7, Illinois, 3, AZ, 1, CA, 1, HA, 1, KY, 1, MT, 1.
Many years ago, when I was working at Wave Hill, a New York cultural property consisting of several acres, gardens and 2 manor houses, we referred to the walled in courtyard outside the kitchen of Glinder House as the dooryard. It was just off the driveway and clearly would serve for an informal visit, not necessarily in the dooryard, but by way of the dooryard and into the kitchen. That's the way friends, especially women friends, would stop by. It was used for laundry, cooking and gardening as mentioned above. Because it was walled in, it was safe from marauding deer and icy winds off the river. The walls would also trap heat from the sun, making it more of an all-year feature. When I was growing up in Minnesota, no one except the pastor ever came to call by the front door. The family and friends, even bums and traveling missionaries, all came to the kitchen door. If only we'd had a dooryard instead of a box elder tree.
If you want to